So after 2 months of battling with Intel and Asus to get my RMAs back, I finally have the $370 i9 128 gig machine. If you're new to the channel, essentially I got a bunch of these parts in a bundle on Facebook for free, 100% for free. This lady was throwing them out and said that they didn't work any longer. Her husband was an engineer. They claimed that they tried to do the RMA on it, which they didn't. And come to find out, a lot of the parts were still under warranty. Now, getting the warranty to go through was one of the most painful processes I think I've done in a long time. It took me quite a while, and I'll go over that near the end of the video. Both Asus and Intel. Asus was okay in the beginning, and then it started to get a little bit weird. Intel was very problematic to deal with. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw this build together. We're going to check it out and see how it runs. And then I'm actually going to be surprising my cousin with this build.
Here you go, dude. Here's your new PC.
Thanks, dude.
He's getting the system completely free. He sort of knows about it because with him, it's kind of hard. I've been trying to ask him questions on like what parts he needs and what he uses for work. And eventually I kind of was like, hey man, I'm building you a new PC. You do all this video editing on an 8700K. We need to upgrade you. So 12900K is going to do, that's a KS too, it's not a regular K. 12900KS is going to do really good, and then the 128 gigs of DDR5 is going to be insane. Let's get on to the build. Starting out with the Z690 from Asus and the 128 gigabytes of crucial memory. We also have a 12900KS, which I mentioned before. And up next we have Papacito and these APNX fans, which I've dropped on the channel a few times, and this GAMDS 360 AIO, which is going to do a really good job cooling the CPU. Up next we have Asia Horse cables, the 1000 watt P2 EVGA power supply, and this Okanos is the name. Case. It's kind of an O11 dynamic knockoff. Next, we have a 3060, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. This is not the actual 3060 we were going to use. I did a little bit of skin work on it, and unfortunately I had to go. Up next, we have a 990 Evo, which we are not factoring into the price because my cousin actually bought this for himself, but I did want to throw it into the build. That is Papacito, the Sir Gentleman, holding the NVMe. My cat is frustrated that I'm using his work area, so I will throw this computer together as fast as possible. So during this build process, I was wondering if I should actually have him come over and build the PC for himself so he'd have a better understanding of everything. But there were a few things that popped up during this build that were actually a little bit challenging for even someone like myself who's built tons of computers. For one, the AIO had a few funky things. The other thing is the PC case was causing some kind of strange issues, and I'll get into that. Obviously, as you can see here, the motherboard looks like it fits very well, which it does fit very well. But at the very bottom, the cables that come out to connect to the front I/O, those barely fit, and they made them extremely thin so that you can fit them. But as you'll see here in a second, the only way to do it is to run the cables down at the bottom before even putting anything together. And you'll see right here how tight it is. And there is like absolutely no space. So I had to take the motherboard back out and then run the cables underneath to get the front I/O and the HD audio and all that together. Other than that, this build went pretty smooth. I did do a few things myself that were mistakes, like for an example right here. This is the classic, oh no, I left the film on my AIO or cooler. And yeah, I've done this probably 100 times. I don't know why, I just keep doing it, but yeah. So other than that, everything about this system was pretty easy to build, but there was one other lurking issue. We will get into that momentarily. So during the testing process of this computer, I noticed that the video card was artifacting. And as you look closely, you'll see a bunch of splotches, colors popping up on the screen. The card will go for a while before it starts to run into any real issues, and this is why I didn't catch it a while ago. And what's sad is this was also another part that I got on that day that I got scammed on the CPU. So I got like 3 bad parts in a very short period of time. I'm not gonna let that happen anymore, but going forward, yeah, I gotta check for this stuff. Luckily, this card was still under warranty, and I did already send it into MSI. I did try the old heat gun method and decided to give up on that because I really didn't want to wreck the card or have any other issues before sending it into RMA. So anyway, let's jump back to the video.
Alright guys, so my cousin is on his way over right now. His PC is all set, ready to go. This is not going to be a, I don't know, traditional surprise thing because I had to ask him a ton of questions to know exactly what he needs for this system. So he already knows he's getting a PC. What he doesn't know is what it looks like, that it's completely free to him, I guess, because he keeps trying to offer me stuff. But yeah, pretty much the only thing he paid for that I'm not including in this is a new 990 NVMe. That is something he bought. I was going to transfer his other computer's hard drive or SSD over, and instead he wanted to go new, which I thought was a great idea. So yep, he's going to be here in a few minutes, so let's jump to that. This is it. Here's your new system.
Nice. That's so clean. Wow.
Much nicer than the other one.
PC stands for pretty cool.
Pretty cool, pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you got some wood grain right there.
Oh, wow.
Actually, I tried to put wood grain on the other card to like match it, but this is the one that failed. And then I took it off and look at all the crap that just came off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Super cool. I love the digital temperature read.
Yep, digital temperature reader. The RAM is not pretty, but it's 128 gigs, so.
It's amazing. I like the blue, black, and white too.
Yeah, the cables.
Yeah.
Nice.
142 is like 3 times higher than anything I've ever gotten on my current PC.
So I went on to show him other things because he's going to be mostly using this computer for professional stuff. And the asterisk aspect of the $370 total cost actually evolves around that 3060 dying. So that card unfortunately took the budget and threw it all out of whack because my wife actually went and bought him a brand new video card. She did this separately because he did a bunch of wedding photos for us, and so we wanted to kind of give that to him as a thank you. I was building this PC just for him in general so it can help us with our workflow. So the video card is kind of a gift from her. Everything all said and done total after I get the card back and resell the other 3060, I'm looking at like $300. And a lot of these are parts that I found online. They're Black Friday or really, really cheap. And I don't have the entire price breakdown because some of the stuff I've been sitting on for a little while too. But essentially, it cost well under $500 to build this entire i9 system with 128 gigs of RAM. So, and I gave it away. So yeah, that's kind of like what this channel is about. These really good deals, crazy hunts, finds, that kind of stuff. All right, guys, just before we get to the end of this video, I do want to discuss what happened with Intel, primarily Intel, and a little bit with Asus as well, because Asus did have some problems there at the end of the RMAing experience. So Intel was really good up until a point. They started off pretty strong. I was able to scan the CPU and get all the information off the CPU. You need a special scanner to scan one of the codes that's like on the side of the CPU. If you don't have the box. If you have the box, then you can just use the box's information. I was able to get all of that. I reached out to them and said, hey, I don't have a receipt, but I have the guy's information, and I can forward him saying I'm allowed to RMA the CPU, and it's under his name on Newegg, blah, blah, blah. And for whatever reason, they were like, yeah, okay, that's fine. You don't need to provide a receipt. So I didn't. And then a day later, they changed their mind and said, no, we've decided we want a receipt. So I asked the guy, and I had a lot of back and forth with this guy who gave me all this free stuff. And he gave me a little snippet, like a screenshot of his proof of purchase and a few other things. He didn't want to give me the whole entire page of proof of purchase, and that was frustrating. Went back and forth with Asus, and they would not accept it all of a sudden. They were like, yep, no, we need the full PDF. And after a lot of going back and forth with the guy who owned the stuff, which now at this point, he gave me all this free stuff. I'm really bothering him. And Intel has plenty of information here to go, and they have the guy's invoice number. They have a screenshot of the proof of purchase. They have basically everything, his address, his phone number, like what more could you need? And what they wanted us to do was to go and download the PDF where it shows at the very bottom the total cost of everything that he had purchased. And I finally was able to get that, and it was such a pain because the guy is slow to respond, and it just took me a long time. And then Intel kind of kept going back and forth on what they would accept. So that was very annoying. When they accepted it, they shipped that thing out overnight. I got it like within a month. Asus, on the other hand, took probably about 2 to 2.5 months. I had to keep going back and forth with them. Sometimes I would talk to somebody and it felt like they lost the motherboard. It was really weird. And then other times people would know what was going on with the board, but they kept telling me the same thing. So I finally stopped bothering them, and I was like, I'm not gonna keep chasing the board around. I'll just let it show up when it shows up, even though I was trying to time this project for Christmas, which I landed it right before Christmas. Eventually, they just started to flood my email with like almost like DDoS, okay, with tons and tons of updates. But the updates were over and over and over again the same exact thing. They were like, yeah, we're fixing your board. Yeah, we're fixing your board. And I would sometimes write back and say, okay, I don't need to know that. Or like, why are you constantly hitting me with emails? And it was just weird. It was like, I didn't need 30 email updates in 3 days about my motherboard and how it has a bent pin. And it was like being sent from different people all the time. And then one day I did reach back and I was like, hey, why am I getting so many emails about this board? And they were like, oh, we're just trying to keep you updated. But what it seemed like is that every person who I had talked to about the motherboard had checked some box to like email me like automated updates. So I was just getting all these automated messages about the board, and it was quite frustrating. They did deliver. I got a working board. He has a working board, and I'm happy with the whole thing. Just keep in mind, if you do RMA with these companies, these are some of the things you'll go through.